And Kathleen, could you just tell us a little bit about your connection to the play?
I'm the director. All right, I'm the
So
director.
you chose it. You're the one who shepherded it.
I absolutely shepherded it. I had an idea for well, there's a number of reasons. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But I'm the director. I am a director at Fresno State, and it was my wonderful honor and challenge to be the first director scheduled to create a production at the beginning of this semester. So it was my job to find something and figure out how we would do it and investigate and discover protocols. And one of the smartest things I did was way back when we first began to close down Fresno State and work virtually, was contact my colleague, Candace Egan, and say, hey, you want to partner with me on this? Because I think we're going to be in a whole new world next fall. And luckily, Candace said, I'm with you. And so the two of us made a partnership. And I began looking for a piece to do and began to investigate how could we do it with the least amount of risk. And understanding that way back in the spring, we had no idea what the world would be like in August. None of us did. So we kept adapting and adapting and adapting. And I can tell you a little bit more about the production process if you want to introduce Candace or Andrew first. I'm not sure what we're doing.
So Candace, you have worked with Kathleen before, but this is the first time that you are doing essentially an entire streamed production. Is that the case?
Yeah, it was really interesting to be in from, well, before the play was picked, basically, because we were talking and there was other plays being considered by Kathleen. And so across the summer, we had a lot of conversations. So the only thing I don't think I truly was involved in was the actual audition process. Kathleen did that as she normally does, but then immediately after, we're back together again.
Yeah, we had to come up with a project, and we thought it would be something that we would contain within a video. At the time we were planning, we really didn't even know if we'd have the ability to stream, even to be live on campus. So we'd always planned an entire video project that we could edit and capture, and then share with our audiences. As we began to develop over the summer, we were able to figure out what components we were allowed to actually bring in together into the John Wright. And really, we had no idea I was even going to be allowed in the theater face-to-face with actors till the middle of the summer.
Lots of bureaucratic hoops to jump through.
Safety hoops, for sure. Yeah, safety hoops, as you well know, teaching at Fresno State, and always trying to figure out how do we make this with the least amount of risk, respectful of the strictures, but at the same time wanting desperately to bring the students back in and give them a chance to do what they do.
So Andrew, you are a familiar face to Valley Theater audiences. Of course, you've done a lot of work at Good Company Players and also Fresno State. What did you think when you were presented with that opportunity of auditioning for this virtual play?
Yeah, it was very strange at first, because once everything went through, I thought, oh man, I have no idea if we were going to be able to do any productions anymore. I was like, oh my gosh, dang. But being able to just having that Zoom call, having the idea of the production of being able to film, I thought that was a nice move forward, because I mean, obviously with the traditional acting, being able to be face to face in a set room with everyone, it was very, very strange to be able to get to meet everyone in person, with all the restrictions, which was very strange. But I think we were able to go through that and make the best outcome that we can make for that. So I'm really grateful for that. Yeah.
So Kathleen, what can you tell us about Darkside?
Well, this is an unpublished play by Tom Stoppard, one of England's certainly most renowned living playwrights. I was searching for a piece that, at first, a radio drama, not knowing how we would be able to film it. And then I decided I found this wonderful unpublished play that had been broadcast back in 2013. The theme of it was very much about a college student, a young college student, a searching for how to find a way to save the world. That seemed perfect for our time. And as you know, Tom Stoppard is always filled with fantastical jumps and leaps from time to place. He moves all over the place, so it's filled with a lot of fantasy. So I felt it would be a great piece that I could reimagine as a live action video and actually transform some of the characters, as we did, into superhero, action hero kind of cartoon characters. And the whole concept really was to be able to focus on the actors and then add in the layer of illustrations and sound and the various superhero animation that we put in later, but still to be able to capture a theatrical performance of each individual actor. And also a live action radio play is one where you would not have to have the actors close together. And understanding, as we were planning this, I wanted to film the actors without a mask, which we did. And I'll let everyone know that no one was ever closer than 12 feet apart from each other, and that made it safe. Additionally, we have a 350-person theater with a very tall fly tower. So it was safe. The university deemed it safe for 25 people to be in there. And so as we filmed each actor, we knew that we could keep them safe, stay very far apart from them, and then everybody else in the theater wore masks. And we never had more than 25 people in there, which meant a very skeletal crew. We really just had the cameras, the actors, a lighting operator, but we were able to do it safely. So that's Darkside, and it's also very funny. It has a lot of fantasy in it, but it really has this deep, wonderful story of a young woman in a college philosophy class who says, I think I know the answer to the troubles in the world, but I have to figure out what that is. And she goes on this fantastical journey. It also has a philosophy professor who has an alter ego superhero named Ethics Man. And I felt the campus would really enjoy that because, you know, we all wish we were superheroes, all the professors. So I think we wanted to create something entertaining and interesting, but meaningful, because it had a weight. Our getting in there and doing the show had a weightiness that was more than I've ever felt before, and a significance. You know, we all think what we work on is terribly important in the moment, but this one really was the first attempt to come back together. So the play had to have an important message to me in order to earn our confidence and taking, you know, a little bit of a risk of coming together. And I really think it did. So it was great.
So
Yeah,
Candace,
I'd like to, can I add on to that?
Sure. I was going to ask you, you know, can you kind of set the scene for us in terms of what that filming looked like and
Sure.
what some of your challenges were?
Yeah, and just to segue to that, to tag on what Kathleen said about the actual radio play, I think it helped us that it was originally written for radio, because a radio drama has descriptions of things, what they're looking at, what they're doing. So they, you know, because you're only listening to it, and given our setup, that really helped us, because then we didn't have to have showing action, but we were alluding to action, and it was in the dialogue, which kind of helped based on the way we had to set up. So the cameras were spaced, you know, like 12 feet from each other and 12 feet from an actor, and each actor had like their camera, and they just looked at their camera. And they were really amazing at having slightly gaze changes that give you the feel that they're communicating with this person who's either feet away or not even in this take. So they really did a great job. But it allowed us to kind of lock everybody into a place. So there's no blocking, there's upper body movement like we're doing in Zoom, and that's it. So it kind of made it technically easy to manage. And as camera people, we really had an unusually easy job. Basically, what we had to really do was just get our framing, make sure we were set. I mean, there were things to do, but once it happened, our job was just to make sure the recording was happening.
When we rehearsed the show, I should let you know that we originally rehearsed facing each other, but 12 feet apart, with masks, with head shields, you know, looking like we were going to perform surgery. We rehearsed and created these lovely relationships. I hope you'll see it, between the actors. And then slowly, I was in there for 4 weeks alone with the actors, nobody else. I slowly began to turn them away from each other, so that this relationship that they had with each other now was in their imagination. And they could react to each other because they'd already been working with each other and facing each other. We didn't look right into the camera, but we worked on techniques, and the actors were fantastic at learning this, to slightly angle, which truly gives you the feeling of connecting with each other. But I think those early rehearsals we did where they were actually listening to each other, reacting to each other, seeing each other, really created the basis for what we did later on camera. And I had marked out on the John Wright 11 X's, and that was the place each actor always went to. So we never accidentally got closer to each other than 6 feet.
So Andrew, what was it like to act in this very different technique? I mean, my memories of you, recent memories are you know, dancing around the stage and being in very close proximity to your fellow actors. This sounds like it was totally different.
Oh yeah, so it's so totally different from everything I did like at Good Company Players. It was, the approach to it was very, very daunting. Like I had no clue like how we would be able to like approach this, especially being so comfortable with the face-to-face performances, like everything that we'd done previously at Fresno State, but being able to stand in front of that camera and to be able to imagine that person in front of you was very hard to try to push those boundaries as an actor in order to create that image of the person. I mean, what like Kathleen said before, how we were meeting beforehand, trying to play with each other with all the face shields, the masks, trying to play with each other just generally like through rehearsals and try to create those certain scenes. However, we had to like take what we had learned from those rehearsals and then try to translate over that into in front of the camera, which is also a very good lesson that I learned through the actual filming process. So hopefully that might translate over sometime. But yeah, no, I think.
Tell us about your character. Who do you play?
Yeah, so for my character, I am the boy who is, I would like to say like the guardian angel for like for Emily, who's basically helping her along the journey to help save the world, like through thought experiments, like with the whole idea of her in like the philosophy class. She's trying to bring out those ideas to help, in a sense, pretty much save the world from like all the thought experiments, like such as Ethics Man, like coming in, which is kind of like, I don't know, it's hard to say, like in a way, almost like endangering the entire world. And what Emily is trying to do, she's trying to bring everyone together through kindness, trying to bring everyone into this kindred love for each other. And I think the boy is there to help her along, to kind of guide her along into that right path in order to help everyone understand that kindness that they all want.
It's a surrealistic world, and the boy potentially perhaps only lives within Emily's psyche. That is one possible explanation, but it is surrealistic.
Did you film multiple takes of a scene?
Are you talking?
Well, yeah, Kathleen and Andrew.
Yeah. Well, so here, what I did. This is good. What happened was I would come up with a shot plan each night. After reviewing the footage of the night before, which was a bit of a cumbersome process. We had to upload that every night in person after the rehearsals because there's no way to send it through the internet. So I would come up with a shot plan, and then we would do multiple takes, trying to get different things from the actors, but also dealing with the lighting issues. It's also quite, I think for Andrew, he hasn't seen the final product. So all the sound effects and the sound library is created by Regina Harris, and then really Candace and I layered all the sounds. I was making them, like verbally, which I'm sure could not have been a big help to Andrew. Chugga chugga, bang bang bang, making these noises because we had no sound effects. And then Andrew had to just imagine the sound around him, and the show is filled with sound effects.
Wow, so Andrew, you had to not only imagine the person you're interacting with being there, but you also had to imagine this sort of sound environment.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I had to create this whole atmosphere just even based off of Kathleen's noises that she's trying to present. Gunshots. I'm like, oh gosh.
I like that.
Yeah.
Kathleen's noises. That's
Kathleen's
right,
noises. It sounds like a rock band.
It was.
Yes.
It kind of was. We couldn't do Foley because we couldn't have any crew in there or touch anything. So it was all in our imaginations.
So Candace, let's talk about the editing of this. And I know you had MCJ students who were helping you. Now, when I think of editing, I think of somebody sitting at a big iMac and maybe people grouped around and all pointing and saying, you know, this and that. How did you do this virtually, and how did you do it with these students who were spread around?
So we took, there's 14 scenes, and we divided them up so that, and then I had to create sort of a template of here's how you need to lay things out. And then as we were doing it, and then I'd work on scenes and work with Kathleen, we'd realize some process steps. And so it's really like a multi-camera shoot, because usually there's always almost always two cameras, sometimes three cameras going. So you're having to sync up all these things. So the students helped by laying out the audio and the video and getting all the cameras lined up, and they kind of would rough in some sound effects. And then we learned, like, the first day there was no way we could upload footage, which was the original plan, because we were shooting 30 gigs maybe or so a night, and I don't have a fast internet connection like Fresno State. It was going to be 13 hours to upload the footage from the first night. It's like, this is not going to work. So we sneak and edit it with actual SD cards. And as Kathleen said, I had to mail them to them. And
so you actually put the cards in the mail, snail mail.
Yes.
Mail them, because it was like 140 gigabytes of material. And then they would sort of lay out the scene. I'm editing as well. And the nice thing that where the internet helped us is the little file that says what the edits are is like 4 megabytes. It's very tiny because there's no data in it. And so they uploaded those. I downloaded them, put them in my computer, and then I would go, and Kathleen and I would work together. And we had a lot of work to do, but they at least made 2 hours of syncing the audio and getting the basic pieces. All the pieces would be there, and then we could manipulate, finesse. And we actually had come to some decisions where we changed up a little about what we would do once we were further into it.
We should mention we create a.
Oh, I was just going to ask.
I was going to say we had a storyboard of 200 frames that Candace and I had already created before the students started on it. So they were able to look at that storyboard and get an idea of what we were looking for. And then we had this interactive editing script that I was able to go through, and I would write in the number of every shot I wanted on every line, which take, what day we shot it, what's the actual number, and then they would find that footage and try to get it in there. So we had this whole interactive kind of thing going on that lived in cyber world.
But Kathleen and Candace, were you ever in the same room together, or
when
were you?
Not for the editing.
Not for I mean, for the editing.
No, we couldn't, because Candace is really a virtual instructor this year. She actually was part of my class when she ran the camera. She was almost one of my students in order to have permission to be in there. After that, we have done it virtually, and all of the MCJ students are virtual. They were not allowed to come to campus. So I couldn't even hand them physically a script or anything. So they're virtual. Andrew was part of the face-to-face world, and then I was sort of straddling back and forth between the two worlds. So one thing that's good about Zoom, and I don't know if Candace may not think this was good, but we were working late into the night. Every weird moment we would say, I'm ready, and I would say, okay, I'm on now, and you could come back in. I had my coffee. I was sometimes in a robe, and we would continue to work through it because we had the rest of our lives to do. But at the same time, editing takes a long time. Yeah, and I did miss it. I told her if we ever do this again, it would be fun to be in the same room. I think that would help a lot. But it was an interesting process. And yes, we did it through Zoom with my watching and talking and bringing in the sound. And
so what would happen is I would have the program, right, the editing program, up on my computer, share my screen So she's actually ready to learn to edit, because she was sitting there looking at it in the interface that I have, right? Tracks, and I'm putting this in, and I'm pen tooling, and I'm moving things around, and then we would do something, and then we'd go full screen, and it was a little laggy, but we could still kind of give feedback and make adjustments, and that's not loud enough, now move it early, so we did a lot hours of this, and it's not
hours.
We had days where we probably zoomed 3 times
at least, hours and hours and hours.
Go off and do something else.
We're laughing, but I think that we began to really get a lot of satisfaction out of the process. I would say we're both exhausted, but we did. And I always want to mention that, we don't want to talk about silver linings, because so many people have suffered losses that I can't even imagine. And that's always in the back of my head. But the 3 of us were privileged to be able to have this opportunity that really was artistically satisfying in many ways. When you hit challenges, you have to expand your imagination. That's good for any artist. And I began to feel, get a lot of satisfaction out of it. But always I'm thinking about the people who have suffered through this pandemic. There's nothing about this experience I would trade for not having to have faced this terrible thing that hit our world. So we're enthusiastic, but I want to say that, and we're very lucky. We are able to come together in a great big space at Fresno State. Many artists are not able to do that.
Yeah,
so
it was a real we talked about that. It was a real privilege for you to be able.
Yeah, I really
to
applaud everything that everybody's doing,
and for Andrew, and for Andrew, this will turn out to be just great experience for you.
Oh yeah, it really did. It pushed me in so many different ways that I had never expected. It was a really big learning experience just to take the directions from Kathleen into all these different things, just like with the camera, and then with Candace. I mean, everything was just able to play into effect through this whole show. And I'm very humble about how it all turned out and how everything was able to play out. So I'm very grateful for that, for sure.
So Kathleen, tell us how people can watch this. There is sort of like an opening night, right? That's Friday.
Yeah, sort of. It is Friday, and we miss it a little bit. This is probably the biggest opening excitement we're going to experience, is this particular Zoom interview. So I definitely, we had a lovely wrap, and that was a little emotional. And the students presented me with a gift and flowers, and Candace as well. So that was a lovely surprise. But that was a month ago. So we're streaming it. If you go onto the Fresno State website, and I hope at fresnostate.edu/theater arts, if you go on to that, you will see a link to purchase a ticket. We are streaming through Show Tix For You website. I'm reading this. And you can buy a ticket. There's a special discount for students. If anybody would like to contact me, I will extend that to them. But we're streaming it, and we're going to start streaming it Friday night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
And just to make clear for people, these are like synchronous performances, right? Like you have to watch from 7. Is it to start at 7:30?
It starts at 7:30. Yes.
It's not like it's streaming on demand like Netflix that you can watch.
Our license. No, not at this point. Our licensing agreement wasn't made available to us. So you do have to watch it at 7:30. So it is kind of watching a show. I should let you know that the video is 52 minutes long. So it's a short performance, and we did that on purpose. So it's about the length of a television show. So we felt that would work very well. We're going to experiment with it tonight, a little preview streaming, to make sure that everything works well, because really, Donald, this is a whole new world for us, and we're crossing our fingers and hoping that the people, our lovely loyal season ticket holders who have purchased tickets to this will have no difficulty seeing it. But I'm really looking forward to sharing it with people, because it really is Andrew was talking about how important it was to him, and truly, again, Candace and I we're artists, but we're educators, and we were doing this to provide our students with something we thought would be professionally important and satisfying, and at the same time create something that our community might really enjoy. So we had multiple goals.
So in the end, what do you call this production? Is it a hybrid of theater and film? Is there a word out there for what you've done?
There isn't a word for it because we made it up. So I would say I've been calling it a live action, theater graphic novel video. Live action theater graphic novel video. That's what I've been calling it. Miguel also has coined, or I think I was coming up with many words. Another word that I think I came up with was a virtual multimedia theater experience. As you watch it, you will see these are theater performances in a theater, but placed in this fantastical video world using graphic novel illustrations. So that's what it is.
How exciting to be able to initiate that.
I hope so. I hope so.
And just to remind people again, it's like real theater in the sense that there are only those performances that you can see. So you can't just say, oh yeah, I'm going to watch that sometimes, like we do on Netflix. It's like you have to kind of make a date with these performances. It sort of goes back to the old days, right? When you actually had to go to the theater. So I'd really recommend that everybody sit down and figure out, what performance am I going to see? Get that streaming ticket and treat it like it's a live event, because it really is.
I hope so. Maybe dress up a little, and
Sure.
get in front of your computer,
At least put on some pants, right?
Oh, the old pants joke. Yeah. Well, even when we were shooting it, our costume coordinator, Elizabeth Payne, who incidentally, I've got to say, Elizabeth Payne shifted hats from costume designer to illustration designer. And I think her illustrations are wildly impressive. I'm so thrilled that she jumped into the project, and they really make a huge impact. We've had a great time working with those illustrations. But yeah, one of our jokes was, where does the costume end? Do they actually have to have pants on if you're only doing a medium shot? And we said, yes, they actually do have to have pants. So they are wearing pants even if you can't see them.
Well, thank you so much for gathering this morning on Zoom and telling us about this project. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd want to throw in there? Any of you?
Well, I guess the only thing would just be that we really brought together two worlds, and it's been a wonderful collaboration between MCJ and theater, between MCJ students and theater students, between in-person students and virtual students. And so I think it really just tells us how you can bring these worlds together, and they don't necessarily collide. They can actually merge into something that is different and new from anything I have ever worked on. Candace and I already have plans for a year from now. We're already thinking of our next project because, it expanded us. I hope it expanded Andrew as well. But we really, it just teaches you can really expand and face whatever you have to face and focus on your work. And sometimes that's the best thing we can possibly do for each other.